Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to the MMA Sucka podcast. My name is Tim Wheaton, joined as always by the editor at MMA Sucka, Frazer Carone. Frazer, how are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, good, thank you. Just speaking off air, how it's been a good few weeks since we've done a podcast, and we always record these on a Monday, and we record it about 10 o'clock, and by 11 o'clock there can be some breaking news. So to have a 3-week break is we've got plenty to catch up on. I think we're going to go through the favourite articles that we've written. We've been quite busy over the sort of festive period in the new year, still writing, still uploading to MMAsucka.com. Yep. So we're going to talk through a couple of our articles and then do a little preview for this weekend's card.
Absolutely. And speaking of news moves fast, when I was getting ready to do the show, we were talking about one of your articles was predicting champions at the end of 2022. And for one of them, you put Max Holloway. It's already too late. He's already injured. Like, this is how fast fast news happens in this. And he's injured months in advance as well. Like, it wasn't an injury where like give him 2 weeks, walk it off kind of thing. It was severe enough that he can't compete a few months from now. Like, this is how fast this sport moves, right?
Yeah, exactly. And especially, when we're considering Holloway, it's a strange one because we know that he doesn't spar.
Yeah.
He came out a while ago and said that he doesn't spar. For the Calvin Kattar fight, he sort of pretty much exclusively pad work and light sparring, but sort of touch sparring rather than sort of full contact. So whatever injury is that Holloway's got, it must be severe enough that he feels that he can't even touch spar, which means that it's probably going to be out till the sort of third quarter of the year, maybe even November, December time, unfortunately, because he competed in January of this time last year. He put on, I know we did our end of year awards on the last show, but at the end of the day, that was in my opinion, that was the best performance of the year. Can't get best finish of the year because, he didn't finish the fight against Calvin Kattar, but 25 minutes, he dominated every single minute. He set new records and everything. So he competed in January, and then he didn't compete again then until November, where he put on that sort of fight of the year contender with Yair Rodriguez.
It was a great fight too.
Exactly. And you would have thought that, yes, he took some damage in that, but we've given him sort of a month and a bit off, and he's already signed to fight Volkanovski for a third time. Well, and that, like you said, that's not until March. I think it's March 5th or March. It's early in March anyway, and you can't even make that fight. This isn't we're not taking swipes at Holloway. It's just saying that the injury must be severe enough that he doesn't even feel that he can be prepared for March, which I know we're going to talk about it later on, but that puts a lot more emphasis, I think, on the main event this weekend.
Well, that's a really good point too. I do have to give a little bit of credit to Max Holloway's team because he's had a few injuries in his career in which, just making sure I'm on the right thing, and I'm looking good. He's had a few injuries in his career. You remember the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight as well. He had some mystery injury, and we still haven't received details years after the fact. Even on the Ask Me Anything on Reddit, he didn't divulge any details. He said, you guys will find out eventually. That was 2 years ago. This injury came up, and we haven't heard any details, but it's severe enough where, like you said, we're talking about March. He's out till at least March. He can't train until then. He can't take a fight. However, if he comes back, let's say he says, August, I'm ready. Does he just get a title shot?
This is the difficult thing,
Yeah.
Especially in MMA. Everything moves on. We've got this weekend, we've got a big title fight, a big main event between Giga Chikadze and Calvin Kattar. And then, we've still got your Josh Emmett's of the world. Zabit Magomedsharipov, when's the last time we saw him compete,
Has it been 2 years now for Zabit?
I wouldn't be surprised. I'll give it a quick look here, but I think his last victory was against Calvin Kattar in that main event where it wasn't. So yeah, you bang on over 2 years now. It's 2 years last November. So it's in 2019 he beat Calvin Kattar. For someone to break onto the scene like Zabit did, and then to just completely fall off.
Yeah.
Calvin Kattar's had three fights since that Zabit Magomedsharipov fight, 2 wins and the loss to Holloway. But, there's no, 90% of people lose to Holloway, to be honest, unless you're named Conor McGregor or Alexander Volkanovski. But, it's a difficult one because the division's moving on so quickly. Yair Rodriguez, if he picks up 2 wins in the time that Max Holloway has off, does he jump ahead of Max Holloway despite losing the close fight in November? Who knows, And, we've got Henry Cejudo piping in on Twitter saying, I'll take the fight. Well, that's a huge fight. Henry Cejudo, despite what people might think of him, I think he's probably got the best opportunity to become a 3-weight world champion because of his size. The likes of, if you look at Conor McGregor, when he was up at welterweight, he was too small. He's too small to compete with Usman. He's too small to compete with Covington, with Hamzat, with Leon Edwards. These guys are big guys. You look at the other 2-weight world champions. Daniel Cormier isn't ever he can barely make 205, let alone ever making, 185. You then look at, Amanda Nunes, although she's not a double champ anymore, she was a 135, 145. For her to get down to 125, she'd have to, cut off a limb or something, And with Henry Cejudo, I don't think he'd be too undersized at featherweight. I think he cut a lot of weight to get down to flyweight. He then cut obviously less weight to get down to bantamweight, and he looked good at bantamweight. And, again, I think he matched up well with Volkanovski. They're both not exactly on the taller side of things. And I think that I think out of everybody, he's got the best chance to potentially become a triple champion if he hadn't have given up his flyweight and bantamweight belts.
I don't know if we're ready for quadruple C at this point. Like, he's so obnoxious. He's obnoxious, but like, I get what he's doing because he retired and played his hand a bit too heavy. And the UFC was like, "Oh, you want to retire? Sure, yeah, we don't care. Bye." He's like, "That didn't work. Dang it." But he, like you said, if he's potentially going to become a triple champ, I think this is his one chance because he is a fair height compared to Alexander Volkanovski, who is 5'6", or for normal people around the world, 168 centimeters. Henry Cejudo is 5'4", 163 centimeters. But he did beat Dominic Cruz, who's 5'8", who's bigger than all of these guys at 173 centimeters. But I think if you threw Henry Cejudo into the featherweight mix, I don't know if he beats a lot of those guys because he would just be too small and too undersized. But I'm not sure if he beats Volkanovski either. You know what I mean? I think you can make that fight, and that fight can make a lot of sense. And I would talk about that fight. That's a great fight. I would pick Volkanovski through and through in that fight. I think he's a bit stronger, probably a little bit quicker at this point, but we don't entirely know what kind of shape Cejudo is in. I don't know if you know this, but he actually was the youngest American in history to win an Olympic gold medal. People never talk about his Olympic gold medal win and how it was one of the greatest wins in history and stuff. But yeah, he was a really good Olympic wrestler. Yeah, I don't entirely know how that fight goes because we haven't seen Volkanovski against a very good top position wrestler. We've seen him against strikers, and he's beaten great strikers through his entire career, but we haven't seen him pressured against the cage, put on his back. And Cejudo is that kind of guy that he can utilize striking into wrestling really well, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just looking at the UFC stats, Volkanovski's got a 70% takedown defense.
Really
but that
good.
doesn't exactly yeah, it is, but that doesn't, he was taken down 3 times by Chad Mendes before he managed to finish it. He was taken down once by Darren Elkins, once by Shane Young, who's not even a wrestler, and let's be honest, you can't say, he was taken down by Chad Mendes, so that means that he's an awful wrestler. But he's taken down 3 or 4 attempts against Chad Mendes. Against Brian Ortega, he was taken down twice, but we said before that fight, Brian Ortega's wrestling is not good. Brian Ortega does not set up his wrestling. He's got a takedown accuracy of 24%, Brian Ortega, and he still managed to get Volkanovski down twice. So I think that speaks volumes as to how not rudimentary Volkanovski is in his takedown defense, because he's got that small stature that means that people have got to shoot in from, they've got to really shoot quite low to get that sort of down to his level, as it were, to get that leverage. But at the same time, he is being taken down by these guys like Brian Ortega, who, the stats show he hasn't got a brilliant takedowns. But at the end of the day, he was taken down by Brian Ortega, and as we saw in the 3rd round, he was put in trouble by Brian Ortega with that guillotine. Yes, he got out of it, and it was amazing to get out of it. But the fact remains that he was taken down, and he was put in a dangerous position, as it were. So I think, that's a fight that I'd really like to see. Maybe not next, because it looks, it's trending towards maybe Korean Zombie getting the fight. But further down the line, I'd even just to welcome Cejudo, less, play fantasy, as it were. Korean Zombie beats Volkanovski. Volkanovski doesn't get the rematch. I wouldn't mind seeing Volkanovski versus Cejudo in welcoming Cejudo back to the UFC at 145 pounds to really see where his level is. If he is, a top 1 or 2 guy, or if he is a top 5 guy at featherweight.
God, at featherweight, it's so tough. I think he would even struggle. So even in today's bantamweight, it's a different game than what he was competing at before. In flyweight, yeah, he's champion, no doubt. I think so. At least. Chad Sung-jung versus Korean Zombie versus Alexander Volkanovski. And unfortunately, Chad Sung-jung isn't the fighter that he was 11 years ago. He's had a long career. He's had a long layoff, but he's not as quick as he used to be. He had to adjust from his brawler style because he was getting away on toughness, and that toughness faded. I think, yeah, that's a filler fight right there, but it's a good win for Volkanovski is my prediction.
Yeah, for sure. And, we're only just one fight removed from Korean Zombie being dominated by Brian Ortega.
Outstruck on the feet by Brian Ortega. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And, yes, he bounced back against Dan Ige, but Dan Ige is very much I wouldn't say a gatekeeper, but he's very much, if you can't beat Dan Ige, you're not going to be able to compete at the very top. And, I think they were kind of looking, unfortunately for Ige, they were kind of looking for a little bit of a bounce back for Zombie after, back-to-back main events. Because, Zombie's still a big name in the featherweight division, despite what people, might think as far as, he hasn't got the signature win over the big name. He's got that knockout power at featherweight that not many people do. He knocked out Frankie Edgar, he knocked out Renato Moicano.
Mm-hmm.
And, he does hold a win, although it was before he had to go off of military service, he does hold a win over Dustin Poirier. So
one of the best fights in MMA history. That was a banger.
Exactly, yeah. And, yes, he did lose to Aldo for the belt, but everyone was losing to Aldo at that time. It's the Jose Aldo of old that we're sort of seeing again, coming through at bantamweight now, after the back-to-back wins for Aldo.
It just sounds like such a Joe Rogan thing of like when you're hyping up someone's package, like their video package, and you can't find very much. You're like, this guy fought Jose Aldo in his prime. I can't think of anything else really good to say. But let's move forward into some of the other divisions. Let's run through them. We'll start from the very bottom. So your article predicting UFC champions at the end of 2022. I will put the link for this article down below for everybody to follow along. Women's strawweight, current champion Rose Namajunas. Champion at the end of 2022. Frazer Crone wrote Marina Rodriguez, everybody. Go on, make the case for me.
Yeah. So now this one was one that I was backing up for. Was I going to pick Rose? Was I going to pick maybe Jędrzejczyk? Mm-hmm. I thought, Marina Rodriguez 3-0 in 2021, including 2 main event wins against Mackenzie Dern, who again, like Ortega, not got the best wrestling, but got an elite ground game. She survived on the ground with her. Against Michelle Waterson, yes, that was up at 125 pounds because it was on short notice, but she went 25 minutes on short notice against Michelle Waterson, who is, let's go, she is a gatekeeper as well. And she badly knocked out Amanda Hebas, pretty much knocked her out twice before her being decided to stop the fight. And, she's already scheduled this year to fight Yang Xiaonan. I think that's on the card that Holloway and Volkanovski were supposed to be fighting on in March at 272. So, at the end of the day, she gets a win over Yang Xiaonan. It's gonna, the Weili Zhang 3 fight for Rose isn't gonna happen. It's a hard sell when you're 0-2 and the first one wasn't even close. And the second one, yes, it was close, but there's still holes in your game, as it were. Joanna Jędrzejczyk still knocking about, but she hasn't competed for almost 2 years now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You've got Carla Esparza in and around the mix still, but again, they don't seem to be, Carla Esparza is probably going to be next for Rose, but they don't seem to be too high on that fight. And outside of that, there's no sort of young up and comers at strawweight other than Marina Rodriguez, in my opinion. And I think, she's got a style that will lend itself against Rose because she's the same sort of similar height to Rose. She's long, she fights long, she's got a good ground game if Rose wants to take it down there. And I just think, the momentum of Marina Rodriguez is possibly going to take her to about the end of the year.
Yeah, so I would almost say certainly she beats Yan Janan. Like I think it's a good fight for Rodriguez if she mixes in a couple of takedowns. That's an extremely winnable fight for her. If she fights the Carla Esparza Rose Namajunas is still a fairly interesting fight because it's so weird to say that after all this time, I would say that we still have questions about Rose Namajunas. Mental toughness, like she's pushed back against a lot of people, but does she still get motivated for fights that are not big? Like she tends to lose in fights. She fights to the level of her competition quite frequently. And it seems like if she's not fighting a top 3 opponent, she just fights to that level and cruises every once in a while. So if she's fighting someone like Carla Esparza, who she has said Carla Esparza is the next top contender, I mean, that's still a fair fight for Carla Esparza, even though I'm not sure that Carla Esparza can defend against the next person. If that's Marina Rodriguez looks to get that win back. And that's a tough win for Marina Rodriguez. If it's Rose, that is a better fight for Miss Rodriguez. So it's a fun division. This is a great division. Strawweight is looking good, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, we're sort of counting out Yang Xiaonan because how in the manner that she lost to Esparza, but
yeah,
she can still be a contender, and we've still got Gateshead to come back who, let's be honest, she's up there on sort of Mount Rushmore for women's MMA, We're forgetting the fact of just how good she was. And we've still got, the division is stacked, but I think that the upper echelons of the division are very much everyone that's sort of meant to be there, as it were, are there already. You haven't got like a Hamzat Chimaev that's coming through that's only ranked sort of number 10 in the division at the moment. If you just look down, you've got Amanda Lemos is obviously, she's still, she's coming up. But then, you look a little bit sort of deep in the division, you got Nina Nunes at number 6, who hasn't won a fight in a long, long time. You got Angela Hill still ranked in the top 15, who again, trades wins and losses. Jessica Penne. Jessica Penne.
Jessica Penne.
I don't, no disrespect because she's 2-0 since coming back. She had what, 4 years off? Yeah, she had just under. No, yeah, she had 4 years off. Came back against Lupi Godinez, split decision victory, and then beat Karolina Kovakovic by armbar. But she's still ranked in the top 10, which I just can't personally understand. How she wasn't cut from the UFC. She got banned for I think she failed a drug test, and then post drug test she then came back after 4 years. And at the end of the day, she's not a massive draw, and she withdrew from her last fight. So I think like I say, the upper sort of top 5, top 6 of the division are where they should be. You've got your Zhang Weili, Carla Esparza, Rodriguez, Yang Xiaonan, Mackenzie Dern. Yes, she is coming off a loss, but before that she was on a tear.
Yeah.
You've got Joanna Jędrzejczyk to add to that. She's been taken out of the rankings, but you got her to add to that. Let's be honest, she beats Mackenzie Dern, she beats Nina Nunes, she's already beaten Tisha Torres, she's already beaten Michelle Waterson, she probably beats Yang Xiaonan. I said before Marina Rodriguez fought Mackenzie Dern that I wanted to see Marina Rodriguez versus Joanna.
Mm-hmm.
That obviously hasn't happened. I think that's a competitive fight. She's already got a win over Carla Esparza, and that was a dominant win back in the day. And then you got the Zhang Weili rematch that I believe it was last week or the week before she sort of called for almost. She said, that's the fight that I'm going to return to, which is, I mean, fair play, but that's a risky fight for her to take. Zhang Weili's coming off 2 losses to Rose, where she showed really good wrestling in the second bout.
Mm-hmm.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk's got phenomenal takedown defense, but she's a striker. She's not a wrestler. And what you can take from Instagram is you take whatever you see on Instagram with a pinch of salt. But Joanna Jędrzejczyk isn't grinding in the gym. She's very much turned into kind of like a celebrity back in Poland, and she's attending red carpet. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but we've seen with Ronda Rousey how that can go. So is Joanna Jędrzejczyk already setting herself up for life outside of the UFC, or is she, just taking time away from the sport before she really, hits it with a vengeance? It's, only her next fight will show sort of what mindset she's in.
Joanna, I think we really do psychoanalyze fighters a little bit too much sometimes in MMA because I think sometimes there's not enough to talk about. But yeah, Joanna, even at half speed, if she comes back at 50% of the speed that she was before, she's still top 3 in this division. She advanced the level of women's fighting just through being like, she was so far ahead of the competition for a while when she was dominating people and outstriking them like 500-1 but yeah, so right now she is living the prize fighter's dream in that she's not taking the damage, but she's still getting paid for what she wants. She's working for grocery store chain, she's working for like Christmas shopping or whatever it was. She's like a host on The Voice Poland, like she's doing cool stuff like this. So good for her. If she doesn't come back, fine. Like, you've accomplished so much in your career. That is absolutely fine. But let's move on to women's flyweight. You wrote current champion Valentina Shevchenko, champion at the end of 2022. This is a quick one. Maybe we'll just rush through it. Champion at the end of 2022, Valentina Shevchenko. Now, I will say, yesterday I spoke to a training partner of Tatiana Suarez. And I said, do we have any news for Tatiana Suarez? So this is breaking news on the show. And it makes like a podcast. Do we have any news for Tatiana Suarez? She said no. So I don't know who's going to. Valentina Shevchenko might still be champion.
You got me excited then. That's if I'm willing to edit the article if I see Tatiana Suarez in there twice at flyweight. You know, we've never seen her at flyweight. She was meant to be making a flyweight debut, I think, against Roxanne Modafferi.
Yeah.
Didn't come to fruition. Obviously, she had to sort of pull out of that bout with yet another injury.
Yeah.
If Tatiana Suarez returns, this is at the end of 2022, so I'd still say that Valentina's going to hold the belt at the end of 2022, because Tatiana Suarez, let's be honest, she's not going to be thrust into a title shot, because if she does come back, which, you know, there's no saying that she definitely will, she can't go straight in there with, you know, she's never competed at flyweight. It's simply put, it's unfair for the flyweights. You know, this weekend we've got Caitlin Chikagian, who's, yes, she's already been dominated by Shevchenko, but she's worked her way back up to that title shot. So she deserves another title shot should she win this weekend. Outside of that, there's nothing for Valentina at flyweight. You know, she's beat number 1, she's beat number 2, she's beat number 3, she's beat number 4, she's beat number 9, and no one else is even close. And, you know, if we just sort of, I know I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I did an outlandish predictions for, I always do an outlandish predictions every year for 2022, and one of my outlandish predictions was that Casey O'Neill, you know, goes 3-0 and is scheduled to fight for the belt in early 2023. I've said I couldn't name the amount of podcasts that I've said on that Casey O'Neill is not being rated high enough. She went 3-0 with 3 finishes at flyweight, which is quite a rare thing to do, you know. Down at the lower weights, especially, you know, at female, you don't get these knockouts, and yet she got 2 TKOs and a sub, and it was a sub against a black belt. She's already scheduled to face Roxanne Modafferi at UFC 271, and then I predicted, you know, that she goes on then to fight maybe an all-Scottish affair against Joanne Wood, and then Caitlin Chikagian or a fellow top contender before she's scheduled to fight Valentina Shevchenko in what would be her 7th UFC fight. You know, the only other person I can see in that division is Talia Santos competing anytime soon with Valentina Shevchenko, and that's simply put because she's a new face in the division. So she's a new opponent for Valentina, but Valentina beats her. You know, absolutely. I wouldn't say it's stale, the division, but it's trending that way. You know, it's the problem with flyweight that the UFC's had since they opened the women's flyweight division and the men's flyweight division before Cejudo beat DJ. You know, it's these dominant champions are good for them. You know, they're getting the pay-per-view points, they're getting the sort of champion bonus, as it were, but the divisions just aren't competitive.
Yeah, no, it's what we had always wondered of, do these smaller fighters actually draw on pay-per-view numbers? And at that time we were talking about featherweight, and yeah, featherweight definitely draws. Does bantamweight draw on pay-per-view numbers? I still don't really know. Does flyweight draw on pay-per-view numbers? No, it just doesn't. Does women's flyweight draw on pay-per-view numbers? No, it absolutely doesn't. It's more like they have a big pay-per-view of light heavyweight and you put a secondary like flyweight on it, and then things are looking really good at that point because there's 2 title fights, but one of those title fights wouldn't sell on its own. And I think the UFC is still trying to figure out like that, is that where they fit? Is it always going to be a silver medal, like you're the co-main event to a heavyweight title fight? Is that continuously where you're going to be, or eventually can you stand on your own? Because we even put like Demetrius Johnson on Fox and he still couldn't draw after he decapitated Joseph Benavidez on Fox television. But yeah, so Talia Santos, Casey O'Neill. I love the Casey O'Neill fight. She's coming off a win against Shevchenko, the sister of Valentina. So that's a pretty good one there. Like you said, she's not even that highly ranked given all that. Does she beat Roxanne Modafferi in her next fight? Yes. Roxy, super cool person, been around forever in women's MMA. Like she's one of the trailblazers of the sport. She made her debut before Ronda Rousey was even fighting. But yeah, she's a little bit beyond her prime at this point. So yes, I think it's a winnable fight for Casey O'Neill. Yeah, I don't know what else to see. You said it's a little bit stale. I think it's been a little bit stale for a few years, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And, I completely co-sign with what you're saying about flyweight and bantamweight not being a draw. When's the last time you can remember a card headlined by male or female by bantamweight? Amanda Nunes when she fought Raquel Pennington, and that was only because it was really in Brazil, I'd argue. And, you've got, at the end of the day, you lost the only pay-per-view star in Ronda Rousey when she left the sport at those weights. There's not next weekend, but the weekend after, we've got the heavyweight title fight and we've got the flyweight co-main event. And then in March, we've got the featherweight title fight and the bantamweight main event. And, I think they almost cover themselves with, you've got this sort of big draw of the draw of a division in the heavyweight division, Ngannou versus Gane. But then if that kind of fails, if for whatever reason one of those fighters have got, we've still got a title fight, but it's not going to be the draw that you thought it was. Petr Yan is, when he fought Aljamain Sterling, was the 3rd fight down on the card. I can't remember quite what card it was, but he was the 3rd fight down on the card. Mm-hmm. And there was 2 title fights above him, and now they're playing co-main event to Volkanovski versus TBA at the moment. Yeah, you got Zhang Weili and Rose Namajunas never headlined an event. These guys, that it's a shame because you do get fights like the Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Zhang Weili at Strawweight, phenomenal fight, and then you had the mess that was Adesanya and Romero. So you had the high of one of the best fights, the best women's fight I've ever seen, and one of the best fights we've ever seen in the UFC. And then you have that kind of stinker of a fight then, and it's ironic because you think Israel Adesanya, you buy the pay-per-view before you see the fights, of course. Mm-hmm. But if you would have said, look, we're going to get an absolute phenomenal war, and then we're going to get a very, very boring fight, you would have said, okay, which one's co-main, which one's the main event? Okay, yeah, let's switch them around. But that didn't happen, obviously. And if we go back to the predicting the champions article, going through women's bantamweight, Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes 2, is that a headline? Personally, I don't think so. And it wasn't a headline last time. It played second fiddle to Poirier Olivier. I don't think it's a headline next time. Women's featherweight, we'll put that one on the back burner because I do want to talk to you about that one because I imagine that you've got quite a lot. But men's flyweight, let's say Brandon Moreno, I've picked Askar Askarov.
I agree. Not totally co-sign. Not a headliner. No, not a headliner, but I agree with you.
Men's male bantamweight, possibly a headliner if it's Petr Yan versus, again, I'd pick TJ Dillashaw. Petr Yan versus TJ Dillashaw is a phenomenal fight. It probably headlines an event.
Is it just the Dillashaw? Is it TJ? Like, is there anyone else at bantamweight that you could say this person can headline a UFC event?
I'd say no. No.
Okay.
Maybe a fight night, by all means, Jose Aldo.
Great.
Dominic Cruz, maybe. Corey Sandhagen for sure, because he puts on these brilliant fight of the year contenders.
Yes.
But outside of that, I'm not, for fight nights, and because we sort of UK time, it's not one of those I'm staying up for. It's one that I'm catching up on a Sunday morning. It's, let's be honest, if for whatever reason Conor McGregor headlines a fight night card next, I'm staying up for that. I'm not staying up for anyone else in the bantamweight division, you know. And again, you know, we spoke about men's flyweight, but Charles Olivier versus Justin Gaethje headlines an event.
Yes, it does.
For sure, without a shadow, you know, Olivier, that'll be his third headline in a row. You know, he had the Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, and now it's looking, you know, it's trending towards being Justin Gaethje. There's rumors about Conor McGregor, but we'll put that to the side for now. That's a headline event. Kamaru Usman, we've seen multiple headline events. Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker coming up next.
Yeah,
that's a headline, and there's not even another title fight on the card.
No doubt.
Men's light heavyweight is a bit dicey. We've had Jan Blachowicz headline 2 events, you know, headline against Israel Adesanya, but is that the pulling power of Adesanya? And then headline against Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira versus Prochazka, is that a headline? Because that's, you know, to the casual fan, Glover Teixeira is not the most well-known, and Jiri Prochazka is certainly not the most well-known to the casual fan. He's not even that well-known to UFC fans, you know.
Two fights in the organization, right?
Exactly, which is ridiculous. Like, he's one of the most exciting, different fighters that we've ever seen, and yet, you know, if he would have gone 25 minutes with Dominic Reyes, I'd say a lot less people will have heard of him. So I have a feeling that might play. And, you know, we've seen light heavyweight play second fiddle to heavyweight before, when Stipe beat Ngannou the first time, and Daniel Cormier fought Volkanovski as a co-main. You know, it previously has played second fiddle because John Jones isn't in the division anymore.
Yeah,
and then heavyweight headlines, irrespective of who fights on the card, heavyweight will always, unless it's Conor McGregor going for a title, the heavyweight belt will always headline UFC, because you can pretty much guarantee a knockout in especially in title fights. And if not, you know, you've got the Stipe Miocic versus Ngannou domination, or you've got the Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier story, and then, you know, several good fights outside of that. But you can kind of tell that the higher up the weights, the more likely they are to headline. And unfortunately for light heavyweight, that's the sort of anomaly. But bantamweight, you don't really get a headliner. I mean, TJ Dillashaw, that's what they've lost with Cody Garbrandt, is he was a headliner.
Yeah.
He's nowhere near even a main event. If we're going to be a little bit savage, and again, one of my outlandish predictions is that he gets cut this year, but if we're going to be a little bit savage, he's not a main card fighter even anymore, because he's on such a big losing streak, which is a shame, because his rise to bantamweight gold is like nothing we've ever seen. You know, unranked to world champion in the year.
Undefeated, phenomenal. Knocking people out.
Dead, knocking them cold as well at bantamweight, which is what we don't see. You know, yes, Petr Yan is exciting to watch, and he's a phenomenal fighter. He's not knocking people cold other than Uriah Faber, but is what it is. He's knocking Aljamain Sterling cold, but it's with a knee to the grounded opponent. He's putting on fight of the years with Corey Sandhagen. He's dominating Jose Aldo, but he's not knocking. He's not one shot kind of highlight reels.
Yeah.
Whereas Cody was, you know, Mizugaki, he's got the whole back, you know, he's got almost 25 minutes against Dominic Cruz where you can pull sections of it, him dancing out of the way of Cruz. He dropped Cruz about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
You know, he had the big headline fight against Thomas Almeida, both undefeated at the time. Knocked Almeida out in under a round or under 2 rounds or something. So bantamweight has lost probably the biggest star in Cody Garbrandt, but they're just pulling in TJ Dillashaw again, which I think Dillashaw, because of his history in the sport, could certainly be a pay-per-view star again, if people want to buy into the whole drug cheat kind of. He needs to play the bad guy, and, you know, Petr Yan is the perfect opponent for him, I think, to play the bad guy.
There we go.
So yeah, it's difficult, but, you know, like we're saying, it's, especially, I know this week they were saying the pay-per-view number, the pay-per-view, the cost of pay-per-view is going up in the US. You've got to now stack these cards even more, because people aren't going to pay an awful lot more money for, you know, you're charging people more, so you've got to give them something more, because you're not going to charge people more for the same product. They've got to get something extra, an extra big name on the fight, an extra title eliminator, another 5-round co-main event rather than just the standard three-round co-main event. These have got to be bigger fights.
Mhm.
You've got to give them something more. And, with most of the divisions at the moment, especially lower down, you can't give them more because it's not the bigger pull.
Yeah, it's a weird thing with trying to figure out what makes a draw in MMA, because is it just the size of the fighters? Well, no. It's like you said, TJ Dillashaw is still a pretty good name. Dominic Cruz, still a bigger name than anyone in this division. Guys like who are quite small, like Max Holloway is actually fairly small. Brian Ortega, these guys aren't huge. Men's featherweight really draws. Men's lightweight really draws as well. Ever since BJ Penn, it's drawn extremely well, and it's always been a staple division of the UFC for the last decade and a half or so. But we look at men's flyweight today, men's bantamweight, and it's an extremely competitive division, but they can't seem to promote it. And I think one of the reasons is because they don't allow these guys to headline in any way. Like Petr Yan hasn't headlined any cards, but Dominic Cruz has headlined back in the WEC. And when the WEC was promoting guys, even someone like Miguel Angel Torres, who we've forgotten about this man's existence entirely, but he's still a bigger name than most guys in like bantamweight at this point, because the UFC is not willing to take the time to say, like, it's okay if you headline 4 events and they suck. But a 5th and 6th event, like, those are when you're going to be a draw, because they're not taking the time to really promote people anymore. And I think higher weight class fighters definitely do just draw. Having that, this is a heavyweight title fight. It's not just competitive divisions, because having the men's heavyweight title fight, men's heavyweight has never been a competitive division. Like going back to Tim Sylvia and Andrei Arlovski passing the belt back and forth, it has never actually been a busy, top heavy, interesting division. It's always been weak, but there's enough prestige on the heavyweight title name that it matters. Now we're going to see with light heavyweight that there's kind of no one in that division. Can it still draw? And like, does Glover, and you put Magomed Ankalaev here, or Jerry Prochazka? I don't know if that's a draw on his own. I don't think it does it?
Yeah, exactly. And, I think for that fight to really stand out, you're going to appreciate it after the fact, where either Glover again shows that his experience comes to fruition and he beats Prochazka, or Prochazka, the way he's going to beat Glover is he's going to be a phenomenal, some sort of spinning elbow or some sort of crazy strike. Because let's be honest, trying to sell that fight going in, it's the experienced, does everything well, can dominate on the ground, 40 fight career, all of this in Glover against the we don't know what to expect from Yuri Prochazka. And that is exciting, but does that sell to the casual? We always go on about the casual. We're going to watch it regardless of if it's co-main, if it's the first fight of the card, if it's the headline. We're gonna watch it. We're gonna break it down. We'll preview it. But outside of them two, obviously that's the fight that we're going to assume next. You look down the division, a lot of the top guys are already booked, but there it is bleak as far as pay-per-view stars in that division. We've got Jan Blachowicz did headline a number of cards, but it's coming off that disappointing loss, and he was well beaten in that. He fights Alexander Rakic next, Yuri Prochazka versus Teixeira next as well. And then we've got Thiago Santos and Ankalaev booked up to fight each other.
It's not a great division, is it?
Anthony Smith headlined against John Jones, but he's no longer a draw. Dominic Reyes coming off too many losses. Ozdemir, Krylov, Walker, Craig. And I think the future star of maybe the division is Jamal Hill, but outside of that's the top 15, and there's no one that you'd stay awake for or sort of that. And then you look at the division down middleweight, you've got Adesanya, Whitaker, Paulo Costa's probably quite a big draw still. Sean Strickland's becoming a bigger draw just because of sort of his online antics. Darren Till's still a headline fight, which is neither here nor there. You got Kevin Holland in the division in the top 15 still, that he's a fight night headliner for sure, but they're trying to maybe build him up. And then you go welterweight, you got Usman, Covington, Gilbert Burns, who's set to return. Vicente Luque is never in a boring fight. Leon Edwards, Bilal Muhammad coming up, Jorge Masvidal in that, Hamzat in that Sean Brady, who's a big draw. And I think what they're trying to do at bantamweight is find that next star, and that next star, without a doubt, is Sean O'Malley. The risk that they're running is that they've never put him in a very competitive fight. So when he fights someone who is his next fight's got to be in the top 15. I think his next fight will probably be against a Ricky Simone or Pedro Munoz. Does he beat them? It's a tough fight. And if he does lose to them, like he lost to Chito Vera, they've lost their pay-per-view star then. A bantamweight. Do you know what I mean? And then you go back to Corey Sandhagen could be a pay-per-view star, but at the moment he's just not good enough because he hasn't won the fights. He lost to Dillashaw, he lost to Petr Yan, but he could certainly be a pay-per-view star because he's a good talker. He's a phenomenal fighter. He's always in interesting fights. Jose Aldo can be a pay-per-view star, but can he get past Petr Yan? Their first fight sort of suggested that's a no, and he could fight TJ Dillashaw next. That's not a pay-per-view headliner, it's a fight night headliner. Mm-hmm. It's a bantamweight for sure. It's dicey, but I think, like I say, I think they're trying to sort of bump up Sean O'Malley, but whether Sean O'Malley's got the long-term sort of skill to be able to sort of carry the mantle is to be determined, to be honest.
He's a little bit flimsy is the thing. He's very talented. A lot of people can be the hammer. A lot of people can't be the nail. And to be a really good champion, you need to really succeed at both. And we've seen guys like Jose Aldo, he still succeeds at both. I think Sean O'Malley kind of gets that Roger Ware to Michael Venom Page matchmaking treatment. You know what I mean? Of like, we just found some guy from Alaska fighting championships. He's a man. You're gonna beat him up now. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And even when we saw Chris Massino come in, he didn't struggle. He dominated the fight, but he went the best part of 15 minutes with someone who stepped in on a week, 2 weeks notice. It's not like they stepped in from the UFC. They were outside of the UFC. Chris Massino was not signed to the UFC and then stepped in, and he was walking O'Malley down. And we've seen him lose against Chito Vera. They gave him the fight against Thomas Almeida when Thomas Almeida was on about a 4-fight losing streak. His last fight against Piver's a flyweight. He got one win up at bantamweight against Kyler Phillips, and they throw him in with O'Malley. He's getting people on losing streaks, new UFC fighters and flyweights. Put him on against someone on a winning streak who is a natural bantamweight like Chito Vera, and he loses. These are unfortunately, these are facts, and I think he's definitely got the talent to sort of throw down at bantamweight, but it's whether he's not taking the fight. People are calling him out. Brian Callow constantly calls him out online. Ricky Simone, Adrian Yanez, all these guys are calling him out. And he's very much kind of ignoring that and going for the easy fight, which why not? Like you said, you can make the same amount of money in an easier fight, fighting unranked guys, but he's slowly going to lose the respect of the hardcore fan, as it were. The casual fan's always going to tune in. He's got knockouts for days. He's got the highlight reel knockouts. He's got the wacky hair. He's got the wacky personality.
Yes.
But let's be honest. Who are they going to put him in next? Wouldn't be surprised to see him against Casey Kenny. He's on a 2-fight losing streak.
Fine.
It's
more competitive.
Exactly. It's more competitive. Asasao is on a 3-fight losing streak, I think, or a 2-fight losing streak. It's Pedro Munoz coming off 2.
It's got to be Rafael Assunção because of every great champion has to be Rafael Assunção, and now he's really on the decline in his career. He's not as good as he used to be. He used to be like the gatekeeper, goatkeeper kind of thing. You got to beat Rafael to get in. I think that's a great fight for him.
Exactly. I would have matched him up against Marlon Moraes next. But Marlon Moraes has got a fight against Song Yadong, but Moraes, he's got 3 TKO losses in a row to Henry Cejudo.
It's a good fight too.
Aldo. He beat Aldo. He lost to Cejudo, beat Aldo.
Oh, yeah.
Lost to Sandhagen, lost to Rob Font, and then lost to Merab.
Yeah.
he's still a solid fighter, and those leg kicks will chew O'Malley up. So why not make that fight? Because they're scared that Marlon Moraes may be too good for Sean O'Malley at this point in his career. They're not going to give him the Chito Vera rematch because that doesn't do anything for Chito unless it's a main event. They won't put him in against Merab because, Merab, although he's easily hit, we saw against Marlon Moraes, he won't give up. Dominic Cruz fight makes a lot of sense, as does the Cody Garbrandt fight. But, Cody Garbrandt's there to be hit, as we know. So don't be surprised to see him in against Cody Garbrandt next time out. It's a shame for Garbrandt, but it is what it is, I guess.
He does beat Garbrandt. They were talking to each other at the press conference. I think both recognized each other as a money drop. Like this is a really good person for my career, and it works out well for both. It's actually a very lucrative fight for both people. On Marlon Moraes, I don't think I said this before, but before his Merab Dvalishvili fight, you know how Marlon Moraes has the guy can't fight 2 rounds in his whole career, right? Like he cannot. I get emails from a sponsor being, it's like one of his like muscle farm sponsors. So like, do you want to interview of Marlon Moraes and like find out why he's in such good shape? And then he like gasses out to Merab Dvalishvili and like, so you're a terrible sponsor, evidently. Like he's not lasting. It was like, we're gonna host an open workout, and then you can interview him. You can ask a quick question after he's done his workout. I'm like, it's gonna be a quick workout, isn't it? Anyway,
exactly, yeah.
So we need to move forward. Okay, Amanda Nunes, and you put Kayla Harrison. I'm not going to talk to Kayla until I wish her like a happy Christmas and holidays, but there's no point in talking to a person who hasn't signed the contract. She's not going to give me any quotes. You know what I mean? I want to interview her for the website after the contract is signed, because then I can actually get some answers out of it. Kayla Harrison is a good prediction. Love that all day. Yeah. That's a good one.
I just think that, they're still, again, they're going to look for a big female draw. Mm-hmm. At the moment, they haven't got one. Biggest female draw is probably still going to be Nunes, but after the way she lost to Juliana Pena, I think her stock obviously goes down, but I think it goes down considerably because of the way she kind of almost arguably quit in that fight. And we've seen the videos of how distraught Kayla Harrison was when she saw Nunes lose, and we got the quotes from Dana saying, look, we were going to face these 2 girls off, but obviously that's never come to fruition, and now Kayla Harrison's still outside of the UFC. I see her, if that fight does go ahead, and like you say, if they do sign the contract, I'm sure you'll speak to her, but I see that fight being finished by TKO in favor of Harrison. She's too big, she's too strong. Nunes gasses. Nunes' stand-up is phenomenal, but I think Kayla Harrison is smart enough to be able to close the distance quick, get her down, and wear her out. And that's just a sort of a quick analysis on how I think that fight's going to go.
Completely co-sign with you. One of the ones I'm going to jump forward to the prestige divisions here. Charles Oliveira, current champion at the end of 22. Justin Gaethje. That's a prediction and a half right there. Charles Oliveira has been recovering. He gets hit in every fight. He's always an exciting fighter, but he's been so much tougher recently. He's been on a great streak in his last 10 fights or so. But you picked Justin Gaethje to beat him, and he's going to be champion in 2022. Tell us why.
Yeah, I think, we've seen Charles Oliveira fight Michael Chandler, who got excited when he knocked Oliveira down and
got excited. Yeah.
Ultimately he paid the price. He's now 1-2 in the UFC as opposed to 2-0 with a belt. And against Justin Gaethje, I think he had a phenomenal game plan against Gaethje. Continuously work up the middle. Against Dustin Poirier, not Justin Gaethje, but against Justin Gaethje, he's got the wrestling, I think, to deal with Oliveira's potential sort of clinch. I think he's going to come into the fight a lot bigger than Oliveira, and I think he's got that one punch knockout power, whereas Gaethje hasn't really got. Gaethje is much more of a wear you down and then use the one punch knockout power, whereas we've seen against Cowboy, against James Vick, against Edson Barboza, Gaethje can put your lights out with one shot, and he's not gonna fade if you hit him with a good. You've got to pretty much shut his lights out completely for him to quit. We've seen old Justin Gaethje. And also, it's the Trevor Whitman. I don't even know the sort of phenom that is Trevor Whitman in his corner. I think does play a huge part. You know, you're not going to get a poor game plan for Justin Gaethje going into it, like we had for Conor McGregor going into Khabib fight. You said, look, we were too defensive. We concentrated too much on the takedown. We were too worried about the takedown, so we didn't really compete to how, you know, if we would have that fight again, we go slightly more aggressive. That's easier said than done when you you've been choked out in the 4th round. Trevor Whitman won't come in with a poor game plan, or if he does, you know, if he comes in with a poor game plan for the first 2 rounds, by the 3rd round, he would have said, right, we'll go to plan B. We'll switch it up. We'll work the wrestling, for example, or, you know, we're getting caught when we go for the leg kick with the counter. Stop going for the leg kick. We'll go and start working the body with the kicks, or you know, something to that effect. That's just, you know, simple sort of off the cuff game plan. But I do think Justin Gaethje finally gets gold, and it does actually. You know, he's the interim champion. He lost to Khabib. Kind of pace that Khabib put on him, I don't think Charles Oliveira can put on him, and Charles Oliveira hasn't got the relentless wrestling that Khabib has. And I think that plays quite a big part in that fight.
Yeah, Oliveira, he doesn't even do a really good takedown. Like even against Moria, he just decided, now I'm going to put a submission on you. And he just walked in, didn't even get a takedown, just walked in. I'll just put the submission on you now. This is the fight. I'm done with this. Kamaru Usman, do you think his knees hold out? I think Kamaru Usman loses just because he's a bit too old for the division now. I think his knees, he's got injuries. In 2021, he had an amazing year. He was our fighter of the year, but he beat a bunch of guys that he's beaten before. He's beaten Jorge Masvidal. Like, who cares? I honestly think if you get Vicente Luque in there, it's more of a matter of Kamaru Usman loses than Vicente Luque wins, if you know what I'm saying with this. Is that fair to say?
I understand. Yeah, no, for 100% that he's almost his body is his own worst enemy, as it were.
Yeah.
I think he may be, you know, I put here that he beats Leon Edwards, you know, in his next fight, and then either fights Hamzat or Vicente Luque. I think he probably beats Leon Edwards just purely on wrestling, you know, on wrestling ability. But we've seen Leon Edwards in their first fight not handle the wrestling too well. And yes, you know, however many years ago that was, I think it's 2016.
Totally agree, though. Yeah.
And, you know, Edwards is solid all round. He's a very good mixed martial artist, but Usman's just better, I think. And you know, on my outlandish predictions, I said that Hamzat beats Bilal Muhammad, but then loses to Colby Covington, because I think Colby Covington puts a pace on Hamzat that he won't expect. He won't be able to deal with. His wrestling is, you know, as good as Hamzat's. Maybe not offensively, but defensively, it's as good as Hamzat's. And then you got Vicente Luque, who he's all action all the time, and the only thing I think that would be negative for Luque is that he probably will, if he does fight Usman, we probably will catch him. But then, like Michael Chandler, does he get excited, rush in, and then just get double-legged and taken down by the superior wrestler? Yeah, but then you've got to consider that if he does get taken down, like we saw against Michael Chiesa, will he try and lock up a dart? Will he try and lock up some kind of guillotine? You know, we saw against Chiesa, we saw against Tyron Woodley, all but knocked Woodley out, and then decided to choke him out just because the choke was there. He's a very good fighter, Vicente Luque. But whether he's slightly too, this is going to sound stupid, but is he slightly too all action for Kamaru Usman to go 5 rounds with Usman, to probably rock Usman, and then have the patience to step back? Right, you come to me then, or I'll close you down against the fence because I'm not being taken down by you, which is, let's be honest, Kamaru Usman can take Luque down whenever he wants. Yes, Luque's got good sort of submission takedown defense, as it were. You know, you can go for the neck, you can try and roll out of it, but how effective is that going to be? When I think you know, like you said, if Kamaru Usman is going to lose, it's that Kamaru Usman loses. It's not that somebody beats Kamaru Usman. I think that's a great shout.
Yeah, and I think Vicente Luque, he gets hit. Like even Tyron Woodley hit him. Of all people, Tyron Woodley managed to. Israel Adesanya, champion at the end of 2022 at middleweight. Robert Whittaker, totally co-signed. There's so many good game plans for Whittaker to win their fight, and I don't think anyone else is going to compete for the title in 2022. It's going to be Whittaker and Adesanya going back and forth. If they fight, they'll probably fight more than once. It's likely a trilogy, but yeah, Whittaker I think can win both fights if he sticks to a smart wrestling-based game plan.
Yeah, I think the first fight, I'm not really taking anything from that fight, to be honest. That wasn't we've never seen. That's like, you know, it's like watching Ngannou come out with a wrestling game plan. It's not good. It shouldn't ever happen. And Robert Whittaker, I don't, you know, he was looping shots from his hip, and he was jumping in with that sort of jump stomp to the sort of knee. And honestly, I think the moment got to him, and I think the moment got to him, as well as him sort of gassing out, as it were, as far as just performance after performance after performance, after injury, after pull out of opponent, after, you know, he had all of this going on. Then he fought Adesanya in Australia. I mean,
The
I think
Marvel
it was
Stadium.
too much. Exactly, yeah. And it was just too much for Whittaker. But since then, he's looked phenomenal. You know, dominated Calvin Gastelum last time out in a phenomenal performance. Dominated Jared Cannonier, broke his arm in the fight, and then he did have a close fight with Darren Till, but I think he pretty decisively won that fight against Till.
Yeah,
and you know, I think, like you say, he's got far more ways to victory. You know, he can try and, which, you know, it's not out of the realms of possibility that he outstrikes Adesanya. You know, yes, Adesanya's outstruck pretty much everyone he's fought, even, you know, Jan Blachowicz, and then Blachowicz mixed it with the wrestling. But Whittaker is a solid striker, and it's just we didn't see that in the first fight because, although yes, Adesanya didn't let him, but also, you know, like I say, in the first fight, you can't really take much away from it. But, you know, prior to the fight, I will do a video analysis of that first fight. But
yes,
there's nothing there for me to really pull. Oh, you know, Robert Whittaker did this. If he does this, because he won't do that in the second fight. It's going to be more beneficial to look at the Calvin Gastelum fight, to look at the Darren Till fight, to look at the Jared Cannonier fight. Like, right, what has he done in these fights? He wrestled in all those fights as well. Can he do that against Israel Adesanya? Yes, he's a superior size guy, Adesanya. He's a natural middleweight, whereas Robert Whittaker obviously used to make welterweight. So how much of a factor will that have on the wrestling game? You know, Jan Blachowicz was just too big for Israel Adesanya. I'd argue that Robert Whittaker's wrestling is as good as Blachowicz, if not better. You know, he was on the Commonwealth Games team, I believe, for Australia, or he was at least training with the Commonwealth Games team for wrestling back in the day.
Training.
I don't know if he actually ever made the team, but, you know, he was training with these Commonwealth Games wrestlers. And I think it's about time that Whittaker did really sort of show, look, I'm back now. You know, I had that loss. It was a devastating loss. I was knocked out in my home country. It's bad knockout and all this. But this is the real me. This is the real fight. You know, this is probably going to go 25 minutes. And I'm going to try and dominate 20, 25 of those minutes, which is, and like you say, I think he beats Adesanya in, I think it's February, isn't it, that they're facing off? I think he beats Adesanya in February. And then October, November, they probably fight again. And I could see him winning the rematch as well.
Absolutely. He was even doing good things as much as he got knocked out, he was still backing Adesanya to the cage, which nobody was able to do. But then he backed off. Like, it was like he was one step in, one step out. Kind of. It was a very, like you said, like some pressure got to him. Man, every week we're like, well, there's no UFC events. We got nothing to talk about. We filled an hour with, like, what the every we talk too well is the problem. Like, we got to figure this out.
That's the thing.
But yeah, so men's light heavyweight, Glover Teixeira, you put Magomed Ankalaev, talk about outlandish predictions. And then you put for heavyweight Cyril Gane, totally cosign. Yeah, Cyril Gane all day. He is the prototype of like what MMA should look like. Okay, I got two questions for you. 20 years ago, 2002 in MMA, two UFC champions made their debut in Pride 20 years ago. One was a former champion. One would be a future champion. Who are your guesses?
Shogun.
Oh, that's a good guess.
Is it Shogun? I can't remember.
It is not. It is not. That would have been a good show.
I saw Shogun recently. It was an anniversary of his fight in Pride, wasn't it? I think something like that. Last week. I can't think who else. Pride. So we're looking at the heavier divisions.
Yeah, like exclusively. Yes.
Yeah, we're not looking at a Jose Aldo to be in Pride. You'll have to tell me.
So the former UFC champion who made his debut in Pride 20 years ago, Kevin Randleman. Yeah, that's like, oh, of course. The future, Anderson Silva, made his debut in Pride 20 years ago this year.
See, this is what, again, I don't want to go back to my own article. Outlandish MMA predictions. Anderson Silva knocks out Jake Paul. We won't comment on that too much. Might have to do a bonus pod at some point going through the outlandish predictions because they're fun to talk about. But that's one of my outlandish predictions.
Links down below.
Anderson Silva was training and fighting before Jake Paul was even born.
Yeah.
Before Jake Paul could even hold up his own head, Silva was taking heads off his opponents, and 20 years ago he made his debut in Pride.
Yeah.
What was Jake Paul doing 20 years ago?
I don't even know how old he is.
I think he's 24, 25, 26,
24.
maybe.
1997. He would have been 3 years old. He would have been learning to speak when Anderson Silva was submitting and knocking out like former UFC champions in Pride.
This is what I'm saying. There's levels to this game. I think it won't take that fight, Jake Paul, because Anderson Silva, like you say, has been, let's be honest, he's been at the top of his game now for 20 years. Yes, he had that blip where he went years and years without a fight, but styles make fights, and if he's given different guys on those days, he's knocking these guys out. And his last 2 fights, he's Julio Chavez Cesar Jr. dominated, knocked out Tito Ortiz.
Such a good win.
Professional boxing. Exactly, yeah. It wasn't too long ago, it's only a few years ago that Chavez Jr. was fighting Canelo for the belt. And yes, he shouldn't have ever been in there, but it was, fact remains, he went in there with Canelo and didn't, wasn't knocked out in the first minute. And Anderson Silva dominated him from the first bell. So, there's levels to this game. And I think, Anderson Silva, like you say, 20 years ago, making his Pride debut. And I think you've got to be a little bit smart if you're thinking about taking that fight if you're Team Paul.
I agree. They pick their opponents, and I don't think they're actually going to pick Anderson Silva. I think it's such a big draw. Like, I might tune into that fight. I might stay up for that kind of fight. But if I was in the Paul team, I wouldn't give me the Tommy Fury fight. That guy's just all right. I'm not going to fight Anderson Silva. Are you crazy?
Yeah, I'm not touching that fight if I'm there. If they put that on the table, I'm not answering the phone kind of deal. It's safer for them to completely air the phone and pretend that they were out, no phones in the gym kind of vibe there. So if they have any, like I say, if they have any sense, they'll avoid that quite heavily.
This weekend we got to get a quick word in. Calvin Kattar, the Boston boxer, versus the Giga Chikadze, former Glory kickboxing fighter. What's your quick prediction on this one?
I think it's a difficult one because Giga's, he's on form, but he's only really fought Cub Swanson and Edson Barboza, whereas I was looking at Kattar's record. Yes, he's got a few losses, but he fought Holloway, Jeremy Stevens, Magomed Sharapov, Danny Ige, Shane Burgos, Renato Morgana, Ricardo Lamas. These are top guys.
Fought him at the top of their careers as well. He didn't fight them on the downside.
No, yeah, for sure. Neither man shoots for takedowns. He's got 0.37 and 0.33 on each side, so expect it to be taken out on the feet. I wouldn't look too much into the strikes absorbed per minute because Qatar is completely skewed by that Holloway fight.
Yes.
So technically it's 8.16 strikes absorbed. You can kind of take that with a pinch of salt. Qatar has a higher output, 5 strikes per minute, as opposed to Giga Chikadze's 3 or 3.75. But Chikadze's a little bit more selective with the shots that he takes. Qatar needs to be light on the lead leg because otherwise, to be able to work his boxing, and he needs to don't play in that mid range with Chikadze. He needs to either be all the way out where Chikadze can't land with his legs, or all the way in. So if he does look to throw these kicks, they're not going to have any power. He's going to sort of muffle the power, as it were. For Chikadze, it's all about the kicks. We saw against Jamie Simmons, he was landing the kick to the body, and then went upstairs with the head kick and finished it off. And we saw, that Giga kick it shuts people down. And Calvin Kattar is hard. We saw against Max Holloway that he's not going to quit. But when your liver gives up on you, your liver gives up on you, I'm afraid. And it's all about avoiding those kicks for Kattar. And I think he needs to make it an ugly fight by getting, putting his head on Giga Chikadze's chest and working it in the clinch and hitting off the break, thus crowding those kicks of Giga Chikadze and not letting them have sort of any power behind them. Because as soon as you let Giga Chikadze land with, it only takes one. We've seen against Cub Swanson now, and he takes one of these kicks to the body, and it's game over.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It could be a good matchup for either man. I feel like Giga Chikadze that's kind of who you want to see win because it carries the momentum forward. Like if Giga wins, you could almost put him in a featherweight title fight right away. If Calvin Kattar wins, I don't know if you could make the case on a 1-fight win streak if he deserves that title shot or that he would do well. But yeah, Calvin Kattar could win this fight, but it's a good fight. Anything else on that card that sticks out to you that you want to shout out at?
We've got a rematch in the flyweight division in the co-main event between Caitlin Chikagian and Jennifer Maia. I'm a massive fan of Chikagian, but it goes 15 minutes and Chikagian wins again. Brandon Royval versus Rodrigo Bonterin. Mm-hmm. Royval had a brilliant start to his career. The win over Kai Kara France is aging really well, but then he lost to Moreno and then he lost to Pantoja last time out. I think without a win here, it's going to be quite rough for him. You've got Chase Sherman versus Jake Collier on the main card. I think that tells you all you need to really know about this card. Jake Collier this is real life. He is a heavyweight now. He is. That's at the end of the day, that is what it is. What I am looking forward to be honest, the first fight on the main card, we've got Vanessa Demopoulos. She's a former LFA flyweight champion. She got her debut on short notice against JJ Alderich, which, it's a tough fight. But she had an opportunity on the Contender Series where she lost to Corey McKenna, the Hobbit from Wales, and then she lost to Lupi Godinez and in LFA. But then she bounced back. She won the belt. In LFA, and I think at the end of the day, I think she can have she can have a little bit of a career in the UFC. She is 33 now, so it's slightly on the sort of, I don't want to say older side of things because 33 is not old, but for a fighter that's only just signed for the UFC, she is slightly on the older side of things, and she's facing Silvana Gomez Juarez, who, she's 0-1 in the UFC, coming off a loss to Lupi Godinez, the armbar first round back in October. But so it's a decent fight to open up the card. I think you can expect a lot of output from Demopoulos. And, other than that, the card, Brian Kelleher on there, Court McGee returns again, Jamie Pickett's on the card. We've lost, I think, the most exciting fight on the card, which was Joaquin Buckley versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan, which is a massive shame. And we also lost Michel Pereira had to pull out of his fight recently with Muslim Salikov, which, Michel Pereira is exciting. We don't know what to expect from him, but we know what to expect from him at the same time, but he's had to withdraw from the fight. So hopefully either Salikov will get a new opponent, or that one will just be hopefully rescheduled or scrapped completely, unfortunately, because, Michel Pereira is what he is. He's an exciting, crazy fighter, and we want to see him in there every week, really, just for the entertainment value.
And speaking of Michel Pereira, if you didn't know that he was out on injury, if you looked at the UFC Twitter or Facebook or anything like that, they're still using his clip package to hype this weekend. They're still like, man, you're never going to know what you get with Michel Pereira, which is like, yeah, he might knock someone out, or he might not be fighting this weekend. You never know.
He's that unpredictable. He might just not turn up.
He might not be there. So I will put links for everything down below. We thought we would get to 5 articles this show. We got to about half of one. So we're just killing it this. Next week, we are back with covering this a little bit, but we got a big UFC title fight next weekend. And that's an exciting one. It's a real fight that we got. Men's heavyweight. Just the prestige behind it. I'm excited. Tune in next week for that. My name's Tim Wheaton, Tim Wheaton MMA on Instagram and Twitter. He is Frazer Crone. Links will be down below. Make sure to check us out at MMA Sucka. Frazer Crone, where can the people find more of us? Tell the people what you got going on this week.
Yeah, so this week we've got there's going to be a lot more output on MMAsucka.com. Everyone's going to be writing this week. There's plenty of stuff. There's a new promotion, an all-women's promotion, where we're going to have a preview for it. Sarah Kaufman's headlining the card, which will be exciting. There's a lot of well-known names on that card as well for the sort of amateur scene. We've got plenty of previews, plenty of results as well. Although it's it's been a little bit of a slow start to the year. We're getting there. We've got the first UFC card. I'd like to mention we've got the big UFC 270 card coming up in a couple of weeks' time, so we'll be previewing that next week. But yeah, MMAsucka.com, Frazer Cohen writing on Instagram. We'll be all over that, and we'll see you next week.